Hello guys and welcome back. Today we are going to be doing string to integer atoi. I think that's the name probably of a function in a different language. And this is a medium question which says implement the my atoi which takes in a string s function which converts a string to a 32-bit signed integer. So the algorithm for my atoi string s is as follows. So the white space, you need to ignore all the leading white spaces, and then you need to determine the sign by checking if the next character is a minus or a plus sign, assuming positivity is neither present. And then also you need to read the integer by skipping the leading zeros until a non-digit character is encountered or the end of the string is reached. If no digits were read, then the result is 0. And then if the integer is out of the 32-bit signed integer range, then round the integer to remain in that range. Specifically, integers that are less than the integer dot mean value should be equal to that mean value, and then those that are greater will be the max value, right? If they're greater than the integer dot max value. So it says return the integer as the final result, and then you are given some examples here. If you are given a string with characters 4 and 2, the output should be 42. Right, and then you're given an explanation here that the underlined characters are what is read in, and the caret is the current reader position. Step 1, no characters are read because there's no leading white space. And then step 2, no characters are read because there is neither a plus or a minus or a plus. And then step 3, it reads in 42. And then they also go through example 2, which is a negative number. And although it's negative 042, the result is just negative 42, right? So the leading zeros are ignored because of that. So example 3 has a string which has some like digits at the start, and then there's a letter. So 1337 is read because by the time they reach this C, which is a non-digit number, then they have to stop reading. So the step, like what we're still going to do in this question is to basically follow the guidelines that they've given us. We are going to follow the constraints as well that said that the length of the string is either 0 or it's going to be equal to, like, it's either 0, is going to be between 0 and 200, and then also it consists of English letters, either lowercase or uppercase, and then digits, and then a plus sign, a minus, or a full stop. So let's just code up the solution here as it is. So first of all, because we are told that this string might have like a length of 0, we don't want to process that, right? So we're going to say if that string, it might be equal to now, but in this case they are saying 0 might be the length, which means that it will just be an empty string. But just to be safe, let's check if it's equal to now. So if s is equal to now, so this is handling like the base case, right? Base case handling. So if s is equal to now, right, or the length is less than 1, this also can be checked by saying if s is equal to an empty string, but we just say if the length is less than 1, right, you basically want to just return 0, like this. And then after that, we're going to just initialize all the variables that we're going to need in solving this question. So because this number might overflow the integer limits, we're going to need a variable which will store our actual result. We just call it long num, then we initialize it to 0, and then we're going to also know if it's a negative number. So we'll say boolean is negative becomes equal to false. And then we'll say index, we're actually iterating the string, is also equal to 0. So we can use shorthand initialization if we want, but since this is going to be an integer, no need to put an index here and make it equal to 0 because that's just unnecessary space. Let's just use an integer. So index is equal to 0 as an integer, and then now we need to handle the white space condition. So we'll say while skip all the leading white spaces. So while the index is less than the length of the string and the character that we have at that point in time. So s.char at index is equal to a white space character. We just want to keep on moving, so we'll say index. So now we've basically skipped, like, you know, all the leading white spaces. Let me just make this full screen so that, you know, we can see the IDE more. And then now we need to know if this is a negative number. So if the string was provided and it was a negative number, at this point in time, either the plus or the minus is what we would encounter. So we want to check that. So we'll say check for the sign. So how are we going to check that? We're going to say if the index is still less than the length of the string and the character at that index is equal to a minus sign, we handle that condition. Else, if it was the plus sign, so if, you know, it's a minus sign, what are we going to do? We're going to say is negative becomes equal to true, right? And then we're going to increment the index. Otherwise, we're going to say if the index is less than s.length and the character at that position is equal to a plus sign, then you know that the number is positive. So all you have to do is just increment this, you know, no need to say is negative is equal to false, because it's already false when we initialized it over here. So now we start getting the number basically if it's there. So we'll say while index is less than the length of the string let me just make some more space here. Okay, so while the index is less than the length of the string, if you encounter a non-digit character, you should just stop reading and return. So that's what we're going to check, and for that we're going to utilize the isDigit method in the character class in Java. So we'll say, you know, just put a comment if you encounter a non-digit character, stop reading. So if it's not a digit, so character dot is digit, so that's the character at index. If it's not a digit, right, what do you want to do? So you basically want to break out of the for loop. And then if it's a digit, right, that is the else clause, you're going to add the digit to the number. And how do you add that? So this is where we are storing the full number itself, and to get the number that is at that particular position, you know, to convert this character, the s.char at index, into a number, we are just basically going to utilize the get numeric value method of the character class. So we'll say num is equal to num multiplied by 10 plus character dot get numeric of that character, like this. So the reason why we multiply by 10 is because if you have, let's say, if you just take this character in the first iteration, you get, like, let's say the number that you are given was, it's a string, right, and it's 1 2 3. When you get 1, right, by the time you get to 2, you want to make sure that, like, you keep on appending the 2 as a number, like in the factors of 10. So it becomes 10, and then you add 2, becomes 12, and then you multiply that 12 by 10, becomes 120. You add 3, becomes 123. That's basically the logic behind multiplying by 10 before adding the next numeric value. So bear in mind that like this number can grow like really huge while you're doing all of these additions. So you need to check for that, so that like you don't keep on wasting time calculating when the number is already surpassed the limits. So if it's not negative and that number, right, is now greater than integer dot max value, then at that point in time you just want to return this as stipulated in the rules. And then else if, that means that number, it's probably not negative. So if it's not negative and that number, because like in this case, like if it's actually if it's not negative, it has to be more than the max value. But if it is negative, then remember, like we removed, like we don't know the sign, we just basically stored that it's a negative number is true, but the number itself that we are having here is actually a positive number, because we want to be doing all these additions and get the accurate value. So for us to actually do the check, we have to multiply it by -1 first, and then say if it's less than integer dot mean value, then in that case you want to return that integer dot mean value as the rule said. Oops. If you manage to iterate like through all these loops, let me just format this code. Right, I think this one, okay. So if you manage to actually like do all these operations and you get to the end of this while loop, that means you just have to return the number. So you put the sign if it's needed. So put the sign if needed. That means the number becomes equal to, if it's negative, becomes equal to number multiplied by -1. Otherwise it remains the same. Then after that you just cast it back to an integer and return it. Then let's see if this passes the first 3 cases, and we have an error. So it says not a statement, else if index is less than s.length and s.child index is equal to plus. Okay, it seems we might have made a typo somewhere, so let's just check if we're missing. Oh, okay, it's supposed to be else if, not else. Now let's run again and see if we made any more mistakes when we were rushing to type. Time limit exceeded. Did we increment the index when we were doing our operations? Let's see. So here when we are comparing if the index, when we break here, we also have to increment it to make sure that we don't keep on iterating endlessly. So when we add the digit to the number, we move on to the next character, and then we'll check again at the top of the loop if the index is still less than the length. Hopefully that was all the things that we missed, and as you can see, it passes all the cases. Now we can submit and check if it passes everything. And as you can see, it passes and beats 100% of all the solutions. So this is a sample solution that you can use in this question. And as you can see, like we basically just followed the instructions that they gave us. So for this question, sometimes following the directions like sequentially and just coding them into a solution can work. So if anyone has a different way of solving this question or a better solution, or questions, please type them in the comments. I'll get to you. But besides that, happy coding, and see you in the next video.